What's up, cruisers? I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. Now, in this episode of the Cruise Pod, we're just gonna chop it up. That's what the young kids say for slang when they're just gonna chat about something. That sounds dumb, but whatever. We're gonna talk about unpopular cruise opinions. Now, in the spirit of truly chopping it up, I have nothing scripted, I have nothing planned, but I'm just gonna share with you comments and feedback that I got on my Facebook cruise community. So buckle up and let's get into it. Okay, so I made this post about a week ago and it garnered a lot of commentary, over 375 comments. And I love this. In case you haven't noticed this now, Facebook does this little AI summary whenever you have a post that has X number of comments or something. So I'll read to you what artificial intelligence says is the summary first, and then I'll read you some specific comments. And people get spicy sometimes about some of these cruise opinions. So let me tell you the summary first. Commenters shared candid cruise opinions, including concerns about disruptive children, towel-saving pool chairs, and smoking on board. Oh, those are three hot topics. One commenter suggested fining parents for kids' misbehavior after curfew, while another advocated for prioritizing wheelchair and stroller use in elevator. Gratuities and travel insurance being included in the initial price was also proposed. Okay, so I gotta say, nothing too incredibly earth-shattering. These are hot topics that I see all the time. I'm surprised gratuities were not a little higher up there because that's the one where people get real hot and bothered about. But let me read some of the comments. And I want to know, do you agree with these or not? Are these even unpopular cruise opinions or not? So Melissa Z says, I don't need my room turned down every day. I forgot the sign on the door and had someone come in when we were showering. If I need stuff cleaned up, I'll ask for it. Okay, so I'm a little torn on this when it comes down to the turn down service. Yeah, it is annoying when your steward bursts into your room. And I've had that happen too, Melissa, where, you know, you're not of proper attire and they just come into your room without really knocking or giving you time. So that definitely happens. But I do love some turn down service. And I don't get too bothered by all the cruise cutbacks. Some of them bother me more than others. And I know this sounds minor and silly, but the thing that I actually do miss is that twice per day turn down service. One of the cool things that I like about cruising is that it always felt a little more elevated, and it probably is like a false sense of elevation, but it makes you feel special. It makes you feel a little bougie to, you know, have your room cleaned in the morning, go out for a nice, busy, productive port day, to come back and have your room all tidied again in the evening, and a little towel animal and a little chocolate on your pillow. I miss that. Now, not all cruise lines have done away with that. That's one thing I love about Holland America Line. They still do that. They still have those little touches, and I love that. Never change Holland. But I know a lot of cruisers can do without it. And in the case of, you know, stewards barging in your room, I know some people would prefer not to have it, or even to have it one time at all. So what do you think about turn down service? Do you like it? Do you want that twice per day? Do you want it none at all? What do you think? Jeff Parker, ooh, I think this is gonna be juicy, because he goes, here's mine, and I got blasted on another Carnival page for my opinion. And by the way, I love cruising, but man, cruisers can be such a toxic community sometimes. Like, there's such strongly held feelings. I actually made a whole separate video about cruise culture. And as much as I love it, I don't like that toxicity sometimes of people that jump down other people's throats, or newbies ask questions like, is the drink package worth it? Yeah, we get tired of hearing that question over and over again, especially when the answer is, it's so subjective, nobody can answer that for you. But sometimes seasoned cruisers can be a little unwelcoming to newbies, and I don't like that. But anyway, tangent aside, let's see what Jeff had to say, what his unpopular opinion is. I don't like it when the person ahead of me decides to order 3 omelets for her family waiting back at the table. Yes, I would wait the same duration if the other 2 people were in line, but I could at least have made a decision to wait in a longer line or get something else. Oh, Jeff, that's a good one. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When I first was reading this, and by the way, I have not looked at these until just now, so I'm literally hearing these for the first time along with you. At first, I'm kind of like, that's being like a little petty, like, who cares, right? You know, especially if you have younger kids, it's just so much easier, or you can divide and conquer, and some people can go get the drink and the omelet, but he saves it where he says that would have changed his decision-making about which line to get in had there been 3 people in front of him instead of 1. So I get that too. So yeah, I can see why that's an unpopular opinion, but I also see Jeff's point too. So what do you think? Should people be allowed to get food for multiple people, especially if it's something that takes a while, like those custom omelet stations that a lot of the cruise lines have? What do you think? Is that an etiquette faux pas or not? Oh, Mindy, she's gonna catch some heat for this one. Mindy M says, The amount of scooters for lazy people. Y'all, this is what Mindy said. I did not say, Mindy said this, not me. We had one person on the Carnival Dream, and she actually tagged her cruising group. Mindy, you have some feelings on this, that were rooming across from us, and she put hers in the hallway and then would walk without the scooter. She only used it at port and just made our poor room guy, Mindy, that's called a steward, work around it. My son moved it many times and she kept putting it back until the end and then left it out in the hall. I would watch her walk to the casino and shows without the scooter. Okay, all right. First of all, a lot of cruise lines are cracking down on the scooters in the hallway for that very reason. And I know Carnival, they actually caught some heat for this because they did kind of vocally say that they're going to start enforcing this. They've always kind of been banned, I think, but they haven't really enforced it. But it is actually a huge fire hazard if you've got scooters, especially the big scooters, the big motorized scooters, out in a narrow cruise ship hallway. And then other cruisers and scooters can't navigate the hallway if there's another big scooter blocking that path. So I know this is a contentious issue already, but in this case, it's scooters for lazy people. So I hear you when you say you're seeing her walk around and you think she's just using the scooter to be lazy, but Mindy, we don't know if someone has an invisible disability. Maybe this person has, you know, limited mobility in certain situations, but not others. I'm a big advocate of we don't know what we don't know. Let's be empathetic. I can totally see where that's super annoying and getting in the way. And in this case, it's probably violating Carnival policies, but that's on Carnival to fix. But yeah, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and assume it's not laziness, that there is something else going on there that maybe we just don't know about or we just can't see. So I know cruisers on scooters are a hot button issue. And I just sailed, my last cruise was on an Excel class Carnival ship. And man, they really shrunk down the elevators and that drives me crazy. And it literally just takes one cruiser on a scooter to fill an entire elevator car on one of these Excel class ships. And that's really frustrating. But when I start to feel frustrated, I just remember to take a moment to be thankful that I am able-bodied, that I don't need to use a scooter, and that I can navigate without it. So yeah, the scooter issue, I don't think there's ever gonna be agreements on that one. So what do you think about cruisers and scooters? Now let's talk about gratuities. This is always a very hot issue. Michael P says, I feel a base gratuity should be included in the cruise fare. Then if your waiter or room attendant does a great job and you feel they deserve more, you can give them more, but making it a mandatory extra fee is insane. Okay, so Michael, I actually agree personally with this one. I think cruise gratuities is all kinds of messed up. I would prefer the cruise lines just actually bake that into the cruise fare. And that's one thing that I like about Virgin Voyages is that they don't nickel and dime like everybody else. They actually pay their crew a more fair wage than everybody else. I don't know if you know this, but I am a real life professor and I'm actually a business professor who specializes in management. And I think there's some real exploitation of labor that happens with cruising. I could get on a whole other soapbox about this and I kind of get on tangents sometimes in videos about it. But I love cruising, but one of the nasty things about it is that these cruise lines will actually register their business in other nations, not in America. There's a reason why when you see the cruise ships, they always say, you know, Nassau or Panama or some other country, because they're skirting US labor laws. There's also a reason why 99% of cruise ship staff are not from the United States. And so there's a lot of labor exploitation that goes there, and that is kind of baked into that gratuity model where they pay their employees really low wages. They say, okay, well, we're going to supplement you with gratuities, but then they force those gratuities on the cruise guests. And it just creates a whole messed up system that's really kind of unique to cruising. I can't think of any other business or sector that operates in that way. But if I'm missing something, drop it in the comments because I want to know, because I don't think any other business operates this way. But I do think that personally, I would rather cruise line employees get paid a more fair wage. And yeah, there's the whole debate about cost of living in other countries versus the United States, all of that, and that's another hot button issue. But I would personally prefer that cruise lines just pay a more fair wage to their workers, even increase the cruise fare a little bit, and then just call it a day. And then we just tip as we see that service is warranted, because tips should not just be an automatic thing. Otherwise, that doesn't incentivize great service. So I definitely see your point, Michael, and I agree with you on a lot of that. And by the way, if you don't know this, I don't like to advocate for this because again, this is a hot button issue. People get really mad in the comments and they fight with each other about it, but you do not have to pay cruise gratuities. They will bill you for them, but you can get them removed from your bill. I don't advocate doing this. I hate the whole model, but I still always pay my gratuities. Personally, as a choice, I pay on top of that to recognize good service, as Michael is advocating here. But you can usually go down to guest services the final night of the cruise and ask that those gratuities be removed. Some people prefer to do that because they want to tip in cash only. But the argument against that is that when you do that, all the behind the scenes crew, who also make very poor wages, they don't get the benefit of those tips. It's only those customer facing crew that then benefit from the opportunity to earn tips from guests. So cruise gratuities, I don't think that debate is ever gonna end, at least until something changes with the cruising industry, but I don't see that changing either. So let's move on to another hot topic in cruising. I don't know that this is an unpopular opinion. I think this is actually a pretty commonly held opinion. But Mark B says, unsupervised children. We took all 4 of our children many times, but they were not allowed to run up and down the hallway shouting and banging on doors. Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I actually, again, don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think a lot of people think the unsupervised children issue is a problem on a lot of cruise lines, especially on those mainstream carriers, the lower cost ones like Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC a little bit, but that's a whole different kind of vibe. But yeah, it is kind of tempting on a cruise, and I'm kind of dabbling with that too, as I have a child who's about to be 12 and she wants her freedom and independence of, you know, do you put them in the kid camp, which is great because that's usually free for, you know, at least the older kids, or do you let them have a little freedom because you do feel safe that a ship is a contained area? And if you do let them have some unsupervised free time, how do you make sure they're well behaved? Because I have had this issue. I've had kids steal magnets off my door. I always do a little magnetic fun board every day, like a would you rather question, or what do you prefer, Coke or Pepsi? And it's just a fun thing I like to do on cruises. And of course, kids will take the marker and draw, you know, little nasty pictures and things like that. And then banging and then just running like herds of buffalo down the hallway. And that's super annoying. But yeah, unsupervised children, you know, so I don't know what the answer is. So is there an age limitation? Do we say kids have to be a certain age before they can be unaccompanied by a parent? I don't know, but I don't think that's an unpopular one. I think a lot of people have some strong thoughts and pretty commonly held thoughts around the topic of unsupervised, unruly, let me add that little descriptor, children. All right, so Jason S. had a comment that actually engaged a lot of folks that replied to him. And he said, unfortunately, more security should be visible evenings and nights, and rules should be enforced. Some people need to be grounded to their room so that others can enjoy their time. I love my cruises. This isn't me complaining, but people can ruin good family fun at times for sure. By the way, I was on a cruise once where someone did get grounded to their room. Rumor has it in our cruise Facebook community group that he threatened to jump off the ship, which you don't want to do. That's like going on an airplane and saying the B word. And unfortunately, this dude had an interior stateroom on an old Carnival ship, and it was a 5-day cruise, and it happened on the first day. So he was in stateroom jail for 5 days. That's a punishment worse than death. But I also like how Jason had to qualify, this isn't me complaining, because that's part of like that toxic cruise culture. There's like this contingent of people that will jump down your throat if they sense that you're complaining about anything. But then there's another contingent who do nothing but complain. So you gotta find that happy medium. Joanna chimes in and says that I do think security in general should have a bigger presence and be more active and be more vigilant, being on top of things and making sure it's a safe environment, especially, I love you, Carnival. I love you, I do. But Carnival is the one that really needs that security presence. I made a whole video about it. But then Ted P says, cruise lines do not like to have security visible to the customers. Interesting. It gives off a bad image. And then Jason chimes in to say, yes, that would be the unpopular part. I agree. So yeah, I can see why cruise lines don't want security everywhere, because that looks, again, it's a bad look. Like, why is security everywhere? But it does help cruisers, I think, maintain their best behavior. And let's be honest, I think there are some cruise lines that need it more than others. I just did a 2-week European sailing on Holland America Line this summer, where the average age of the cruiser, I'm not kidding, was like 73. I don't think we needed a big security presence on a 2-week Holland America European sailing, but you know, a 4 or 5 day booze cruise out of Miami on Carnival, you probably do need more vigilant and visible security. So I think it's dependent on the cruise line and the sailing and all of that kind of stuff. Reading on to other comments, someone else, I wish they would come back to stewards servicing room twice a day. Kristen T, I agree with you. I love that turn down service. Tony W says, Food in MDR on Royal Caribbean is no better than the buffet. I enjoy the cruise line, but they need to make dining in the MDR a step above. I shouldn't have to pay to go to a specialty restaurant to get restaurant quality food. You know, Tony, I agree with that. I do think there's been a serious backslide in the quality of the main dining room experience across actually all cruise lines, even the fancier ones. And it's kind of the point now where the buffet food is no different. And by the way, fun fact, I didn't know this for a long time. Apparently the food in the buffet is the same food, the same menu basically that you get each night in the MDR. It's just buffet style for the masses. So if there's something on the menu in the MDR and you're like, oh my God, I love that, I have to have it, they should have it in the buffet too. So I've never been a big buffet person. I am an MDR girl. I love the experience of having like a sit down restaurant experience. I like to get a little dressier and do all that, but a lot of my friends and my boyfriend and my kids, they don't like that, so they're more buffet people. But yeah, I wish the cruise lines would make dining in the MDR a little bit more of an experience with better quality food, which Tony points out, but also enforcing the dress codes. I have a whole other video about that too. Some of the cruise lines, Carnival, have really gotten bad about letting anybody with any kind of schlubby clothes, like bathing suits or booties hanging out in the MDR, and it really does cheapen the whole experience. So I normally am a you do you kind of person. I don't care what people wear, what they do, but it does cheapen the MDR experience. So I personally am an advocate, to an extent, of some diligence when it comes to MDR dress codes. Stacy S weighs in on the food comment, buffets are gross. Like that's literally it, Stacy, that's her whole comment. Buffets are gross. And then Liz H says, agree with this. Well, guess what, Stacy and Liz, I agree with you too. That's why I'm an MDR girl. I don't like those buffets, y'all. I've seen some nasty stuff. I've seen not even just kids, adults, like not washing their hands. And I am a little OCD, I admit, but I see some things, and I know MDR food is still touched by people, but that's fewer people touching it. So I avoid the buffet at all costs. When I cruise, I try to go actually sometimes a whole cruise without eating in the buffet at all. But that's just me. The chair topic. This is another biggie. Ashley S says, stop saving chairs at the pool when you won't be there for hours. But then she says people should wear what they want for dinner. So Ashley, I don't agree with you on wear what you want for dinner. For the most part, yes, but not bathing suits and cheeks. I don't want to see that. But the saving the chairs thing, yeah, that's frustrating. And the chair issue next to gratuities is one of those like top 5 big cruise things where people will literally get in fights over this. So maybe security should be on the lido deck for all these chair hogs and the fights that ensue. So yeah, I don't mind if someone has their stuff on a chair if they're in the area, or they just like go grab a bite to eat and come back, or they're in the pool and they come back. But people that come out in the morning and set a towel down on a chair at like 7 a.m. and then they come back at like 3 and think I own this chair, it's my property, that stuff does drive me crazy. So I try not to do that. I try to be a mindful person. Even when I'm cruising with kids and there's maybe 3 or 4 of us, we'll maybe use one chair that we're actually using. We don't need 3, 4 chairs. But I wish cruise lines would do one simple thing, and this drives me nuts. It would be such a simple solution. If cruise lines, hear me out, would just have little cubbies, okay? Nothing fancy, just little cubbies like kindergarten, where if I'm going to the pool, and I'm not much of a layout girl, I like to actually be in the pool for the most part, I need a place to store my stuff, and I don't want to set it on the ground, and I don't want to set it by the pool where it's going to get wet, and I don't want to set it in a chair and take up a chair that I'm not using. It would be nice to have a cubby. You don't even need to make lockers or anything fancy like that, just open cubbies, just a place for people to stow their stuff, keep it dry, keep it out of the way, off the ground. Easy, right? Why can't we do this? I don't know, it's so simple. And I'll do a couple more because man, there's a whole lot of them. But I'm gonna do this one because I just caught Costa Maya in the comment. I'm scrolling through really quickly. And I just got back from Costa Maya, and it's from Michael A. He said, I don't know how this falls within the unpopular opinion topic, but I've seen a lot of people hate on Costa Maya, saying it's their least favorite port and they won't even get off the ship there. The one time that was one of my stops, weather prevented us from docking, so why did so many people dislike it? Okay, well, Michael, you answered your own question. Part of the reason people don't like Costa Maya on an itinerary is because it is called Costa Maybe or Costa Missed It or Costa Missed You as a joke because of all the cruise ports. That is the one that is the most likely to get canceled. And it's weird, it's not a tender port. I don't know if it's just the way the winds cut in that part of Mexico, but this one gets canceled a lot. So I think cruisers try to avoid it because nobody wants an unexpected sea day, especially when you've made plans and you picked an itinerary for that specific port, all that kind of stuff. But the unpopular opinion is that people hate on it. And I will tell you, Michael, why people hate on Costa Maya, but I'll also tell you why that is an unpopular opinion. People hate on it because of the frequency and likelihood of it being missed, but it's also a really interesting port because when you get off the ship, it's super commercialized. It's like the cruising version of like Disney World or something. Everything's new and shiny and colorful and kind of cool. But then you exit that port terminal area and you're in rustic Mexico. I'm talking almost Progresso level Mexico. Very different than what you're gonna get in Cozumel. But it's very Americanized, very commercialized. Some people actually don't like that and they think the port area is gross because of that. Like it's too commercialized, they're just trying to sell stuff and it's not even an authentic experience. But then you exit and you're in the town area and it's super rustic, it's super underdeveloped, not necessarily tourist friendly, not commercialized at all, and a lot of people don't like that. And for Costa Maya, I personally was not one of my favorites. In fact, I have a video, the 5 worst cruise ports, and Costa Maya was one of them. But I changed my mind because it's all about what you do at a port of call. And at Costa Maya, I found this amazing resort for a day property called Nacional Beach Club. I made a bunch of videos about it. I'll drop my link below, and it was amazing. So they provided transportation, so we took a taxi, and our driver no hablo inglés, and that's an issue too sometimes for Americans that don't speak any Spanish at all. In Costa Maya is the fluency of the locals isn't like it is in Cozumel, where almost everybody speaks fluent English, so you need to probably have some Spanish knowledge, and you can't always assume everyone takes US currency either. But we took a taxi to the resort, and it was all-inclusive, which I love, and it felt super exclusive, super private. There was a lot of coral in the water, but it was gorgeous. And we had an amazing day, and even though I was traveling with 2 surly teenagers, my niece and my daughter, even they raved about it. They had an amazing time. So now that I've found my thing that I love to do there, I would say I like Costa Maya. We had an amazing day there. But this is why my unpopular opinion is that I hate it when people don't get off the ship. When people have an experience at a port of call, it's not great, they write it off forever. Now, my first time in Costa Maya was not amazing. I didn't like it. I agree that it was one of the 5 worst cruise ports. But this last experience was night and day difference. And if I would have stayed on the ship, we would have missed out an amazing experience and an amazing day. So there's so much to do at ports of call. There's so much to do. Why stay on the ship? Why assume you don't like it there? Get off, explore, try something different. That's my, I guess, unpopular opinion. So there's a whole bunch more, including ducks. Don't come for my ducks. I love me some ducks. Door decorations. I also love me some door decorations. So don't come for my door decorations. And also don't steal them. Thank you very much. Whew, so many more comments, but that's about all we have time for today. So I'll probably do another future video on this. It's a fun topic. I like it. What are your unpopular cruise opinions, or maybe your not so unpopular cruise opinions? I want to know. Drop them down in the comments and you'll see it mentioned on a future video. And while you're at it, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe and hit that little bell so you get notifications of my new videos. And of course, as always, you can get tons of free cruising resources, including very detailed free cruise port guides at my website, profmelissa.com. So until next time, happy cruising.